On the first Monday of every month, at 12 noon, public warning sirens ring out across the Netherlands. The sirens are tested uninterrupted for 1 minute and 26 seconds, undulating in inescapably slow waves of alarm across the city. The speed of its delivery is similar to that of feeling yourself falling in slow motion, in that the wave of sound breaks too slowly from its crest to its base, and somehow nests within your diaphragm. But I have heard that it's in case the floods ever come. It's a reminder that we sit below sea level. It's a reminder that we are living on reclaimed land. And it's a reminder of what could happen if the dikes fail. In Scotland, the word dike means a stone wall intended to divide the land. In England, it means a drainage ditch. In the Netherlands, it means a man-made levee in defence against the threat of water. Water and the Netherlands are one and the same. The land has been pulled up from the sea, filling in the gaps of the archipelagos to make one definable landmass. Now, the land is barricaded by sea defences, but the fear of rising water is evidenced as you move inland by the innumerable dikes that now form the natural landscape of the country. The last great flood came through the fishing villages in the south in 1953, destroying 9% of all Dutch farmland and killing well over 2,500 people. I was told an occurrence like this can happen every 50 years. Then I read it was every 100, and now new defences mean it's likely that this will happen only once every 1,250 years. But it is still expected to happen. It's estimated that 60% of the country would be reclaimed by water if it weren't for the constant use of pumps, barriers, and replenishing of coastal buffers with debris pulled up from the North Sea. To speak on harbours is to speak on projecting into and onto the sea, to hold something back and to send something out. When I think of harbours, I cannot think of them gently. The image it conjures is of industry, mechanical cranes, the endless loading and offloading of containers, the miles of warehouses and surplus metal that gates many of the North Sea ports. To harbour is also to contain something within the vessel of oneself. This is not a passive act, as it supposes an emotional industry, that the gears are kept grinding. When I lie down to sleep in my second-floor flat in Rotterdam, I lie in my bed below sea level and listen to the sounds of the harbour running through the night. I listen and harbour fears of those living on the lower floors if the floods ever do come. As I lie awake, I remind myself of a friend's joke, that the Dutch are such a tall people as a sort of evolutionary insurance policy against flooding. Standing on the beach near Den Haag, the turning white teeth of the Doggerbank windmills glint on the horizon. This marks a large sandbank that lies in the shallowest part of the North Sea, a site which, as little over 9,000 years ago, was home to the Mesolithic people and a rich population of wildlife. Fishermen have pulled many tools, bones, and artifacts from this area, which disappeared into the sea around the end of the last ice age. The sea levels had rapidly risen, making Doggerbank an island, and much of the human population had migrated to Britain or mainland Europe when a submarine landslide 180 miles off the coast of Norway triggered the Storegga Slide mega tsunami, which reached the height of a 7-story building. This devastated much of coastal Britain, Denmark, and Norway, and reaching as far as Greenland in its impact. This in part led to the permanent submersion of Doggerland. The history of this place, people, and creatures who lived there are entombed in the sediment-rich North Sea floor. Along the Dutch coast, a fear of the beaches being eroded by the sea has led to a long-term experiment in beach nourishment, where large volumes of sediment dredged from the Dogger Bank and surrounding areas are pumped back onto the Den Haag coastline. Expanding out as a hooked arm from the beach, the Den Haag sand motor looks almost natural. This sense of nature is undone by its violent construction, mastered by the suction of the dredging pipes, which explode the ancient fossils, seashells, and artifacts onto the Dutch coast with shattering indifference. This not only destroys the historical potential for the contents of this seabed, but the sand motor's continuous replenishment obliterates any microbial organisms and ecosystems that have been growing upon the beach. The smell of this ancient material as it comes up, which to me is now the smell of Doggerland, lies somewhere between a metallic manure and the bottom of a burned pot. And if you can get close enough to the pipes as they are running, you can hear the reanimation of this landscape, harboured within the tubes. Not far from where I live, there is a new harbour being built, the Tweede Maasvlakte. It's not a particularly accessible or pleasant space for anyone who doesn't have a good reason to be there. It's easier to understand the harbour from above. When mapped out, it's a great outstretched arm with a balled fist, forcing its way from the river and punching into the sea. Sitting below sea level, watching the water traffic from the banks of the Maas, it becomes easy to see the river as a road. I would like to swim, but it would be like swimming in a motorway. And so I cannot think of harbours gently when I read their shapes as signals, or of their reclaiming, dredging, barricading, holding and bringing up. But when I hear their sirens ringing out across the city on the first Monday of every month, my thoughts are with them at the coast.